Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 49 of Escambia Empires. As always, I'm joined by my brother and co-host, Danny. How you doing, Danny?
Pretty good, man.
Fantastic. And our guest for this evening is Nate Fain. You might know him on TikTok if you are on TikTok, which I'm guessing most of our audience won't be. But he's
if
a
you're
social
not, you should be.
Well,
Check it out.
Go
Check it out.
get on it just to go look at Nate's content.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
most
right.
of it is pretty funny. He's got 247,000 followers on TikTok, which is crazy. His handle is Mortgages Are Boring, and he talks about how he picked that name. And we talk a lot about social media and lending, the mortgage industry as a whole during the episode. It was a really fun episode. There's some people who are just really you don't have to do much work to keep the conversation going.
It's
You know,
not
like there's some
pulling
people
teeth.
who come and we ask questions and get information from them. But for him, I just felt like he was carrying it the whole time.
So
I
natural.
loved it.
Yep.
So it was a really fun episode to record. A lot of good nuggets in there. Actually, keep an eye out for some little clips on our Instagram Reels and maybe even our TikTok page. There's several pieces in here where we felt like, let's cut that out as a minute video. There's just some really, really good information.
Yeah.
So as always, we appreciate you guys for tuning in and joining us. And here's Nate Fain. Nate, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here, man.
We're excited to have you here. So just like we were talking about a second ago, let's go ahead and start off with a nutshell of your personal history, your background, and then we got plenty of topics to talk about here.
Yeah.
So we'll jump off from there.
So I'm originally from Kentucky, a little town that you've probably never heard of, just south of Lexington. It's called Nicholasville. If you know country music, John Michael Montgomery was born there.
Okay.
You don't know
You're
country
going to have to
music,
Google
but-
that. You can Google it.
Yeah.
Ask Jeeves, whatever you do to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
your information. But met my wife up there to the town that I'm actually from. It's got a small school there that she went to college. She hung out with a bunch of my high school friends. So when she graduated college and I graduated college, I actually played golf in college. And so she was
wow.
like, hey, you want to move to Florida? Because she's from here. And I said, yeah, I mean, I can play more golf. Why not?
Yeah.
And so moved down here in 2010 and struggled to find a job right out of college. Not only was the economy just, not in a great spot, but we had the BP oil spill hit here. So
What year was that? Because I remember when that happened.
that was April of 2010 that the oil spill happened. And then I got down here in like May or June. We got married in June.
Wow.
Could not find a job for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a college degree and everything and had work experience in the restaurant industry, golf course industry. Couldn't get a call back. Completely different job market than it is now, of course.
Yes.
But long story short, got into banking with Regions Bank. Worked in a call center for about 9 months or so.
Oh, really?
Got tired of that. It was like, man, it was crazy. It was like 80 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
It was...
What did you do in the call center? Just like support? Or?
Yeah, it was like customer service, and the goal, kind of the unwritten goal. I think it was like you have to get someone on and off the phone in 5 minutes and try to sell them something.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
where I developed my sales skills. And it was
Nice. You
it
got
was
5
some-
minutes to sell them something and solve their problem.
And nobody calls the bank like happy, like, hey,
No.
Yeah.
so
And wanting to be sold on something.
Right.
You're just trying to help their ticket, let alone.
get it, on and off, like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm locked out of my online banking. Why is my checking account overdrawn? You never call your bank for good stuff. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I could really sell anything, or so I wasn't ever planning on going into any kind of sales, any kind of business, anything like that. But really developed there. And then Wachovia at the time, before they had merged with Wells Fargo here locally, they recruited me. And then I worked in the bank branch for a little over a year. And then the mortgage department recruited me from there. And the rest is kind of history. But now I'm at Supreme Lending.
Okay.
It's my third lender in 9 years.
Wow.
How
So-
long have you been with Supreme Lending?
A little over 3 years.
Okay, so a pretty good run.
Yeah, I think I saw 2018. What was your thought process moving into mortgages? Were you like, oh, this is cool, or this is just going to pay the bills, or you thought you'd be good at it?
Well, so it was, it was right after I'd bought my first house.
Ah, okay.
And so I'd gone through the process. I was like, this was interesting, but I also think that I could help people do this. And I saw mortgage folks go in and out of the branch all the time. They seem to have a lot of freedom. I was there from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock. Like, you get an hour lunch. You
Yeah.
have to raise your hand if you got to go pee. Like, it's a very different, very structured, you don't have a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, like that looks that looks pretty cool. Like I could go with some freedom. So I started asking questions about that and tried to see, you know, what's the pay structure like? Like how long does it take you to get ramped up? Like, can I pay my bills like I'm paying right now? I mean, it was a process. So, I just really liked that I wasn't having to sling credit cards or savings account.
Yeah.
I wasn't challenged with that, and I didn't find a lot of joy out of that. So the mortgage side, like, you know, you've got the big crescendo of closing and you're helping people buy houses like that. That seemed a lot more appealing
for sure. 100%. Is it as much freedom as you thought it would be?
100%.
Is it?
It's freedom in the sense that like I can basically do whatever I want as long as I get my work done. There's not a lot of freedom in the sense that like I can't go on a true vacation.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
we're running into that right now.
We sympathize.
We had a trip planned. I shouldn't even tell this story. We had a trip planned for later this month. We've been planning it for a couple months, and we had a bunch of weddings and things that we were going to over the summer. Just this is that season where all of our friends are getting married and graduating college and stuff. And at the last one that we were at, we were only gone for 2 or 3 days. But of course, every time you leave, that's when the stuff pops up that needs done.
If you're ever slow, just go out of town.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you'll be nice and busy again. So Mark got after us a little bit for taking too many trips.
Right.
So we ended up having to cancel. I just broke the news to my buddy. We were going to Miami because he just moved down there like 6 months ago. I just broke the news to him today that we aren't coming. And we were supposed to be there in like a week and a half. Yeah. So that was a tough conversation. But
I mean,
that's neither here nor there.
You're essentially self-employed. I mean, I get paid commission, so I don't get paid until the deal closes. So you're essentially self-employed, and it takes, you know, freedom is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
So I tell people that I've had 2 vacations in the last 9 years is when I went to Augusta National to watch the Masters, because you cannot have your phone on property.
Okay.
So I was like, this was awesome. So I've got a vacation from 8 a.m. until 5 or 6 p.m. until I get, you know, off the golf course. And then I check and like, okay, cool, 300 emails. Like, let's start going through the damage control. So
that's a weird feeling, leaving your phone somewhere on purpose. We were at it was like a birthday. It was a wedding reception. Recently, and I just left my phone in the glove box.
Right.
I was like, you know, they had like a bouncy house or whatever, so I just left it. And I was like, I felt naked, dude. I was like, I can't believe that I don't have this on me right now. But the world didn't, you know, and it was fine. I was able to call everybody back. Right. I think a lot of times people have an inflated view of how much of an emergency everything
100%.
is. I like to be busy and I like to be needed. I like getting texts and emails 100%. And stuff. And a lot of times you can leave it and it's fine later.
Well,
but that's a double-edged sword too.
You go through phases of, you know, if you are, for lack of a better word, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you are in a position similar to ours, like you go through phases of, okay, I got to get all the business I can.
Yeah.
Then you learn how to deal with all that business, and then you learn how to balance your work-life balance. So I'm to the point in my career where I'm getting to focus on that work-life balance a little bit more. I'm learning to relinquish some control and take some time. So
that's definitely hard, especially it is. It's tough whenever you have things that you feel like need done,
right?
Because it's hard turning off, and it's also hard. Like the production is enjoyable too to people who are business minded. I feel like that feeling of producing something and being busy is fun. Yeah, and it's hard to turn that off as well.
Sure.
So whenever you started, you were kind of worried about paying your bills and different things like that. I mean, the real estate industry in general is so tough to get started.
Sure.
And to really get off the ground. Do you have any maybe lessons you learned during that time? How were you able to make that transition from, that 8 to 5 to working commissions and going from closing to closing?
I've always been a against the grain kind of guy. So I try to get creative in how I go and get business. So what I did was, and you know, you can apply this to whatever, but I mean, there a lot of times there's the mold of like, hey, this is how you're successful in this industry.
Yeah.
But if everybody else is doing that, you're not really differentiating yourself from anybody.
Yeah.
So what I did was, when I was at Wells Fargo, I was like, I need money now. Like I need to pay my bills now. I don't have time to start building relationships with referral partners. Like I can work on that in the back burner, but I need to pay my bills.
You need food on your table.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I went through the property records through Escambia County and Santa Rosa County. I took 1 month, and I went through and I found all the Wells Fargo mortgages for a 3 or 4 year span. Because on the Wells Fargo mortgages, I found out that on the actual note, there's like a little number up at the top, and that number I could plug into Wells Fargo's system and then see if they're eligible for any kind of refis.
Whoa.
So I mean, I literally printed, I mean, I don't know how much paper I wasted.
Yeah.
But I printed for
It's not a waste.
No, it wasn't a waste. And then after that, I just started calling people, and it was crazy because like I was in college during the downturn. I was not in the real estate industry for that crash, but I talked to plenty of people to where like I literally helped save their home. I mean, they gave me a hug at closing. They were, you know, I'm not like selling snake oil. Like they went from 6.5% to 3.5%, and they could afford their payments again.
Wow,
it was
incredible.
awesome. So it was super rewarding to see that, and then you kind of get hooked on that, and then you see the checks come in, you get hooked on that. And then, so it was. I was kind of, you know, off.
Man, if you work at a major bank, you need to clip that for social media, because I really like that idea of going and, you know, finding those leads and then just putting in the elbow grease to just call people and just make those connections. And you're offering something that could help them. Sure. You know, it's not, I feel like a lot of times in sales, people get so hung up on, you know, I got to make the sale, and you're trying to convince people. You're not trying to sell anybody anything. No. It's, can you help them or not? And if you can't, you're not going to sell anyone a house. If you can help them find one, that's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah. So interesting. Okay. So that's kind of how you got your start. You were working, I mean, you were used to making calls at that point anyway, all the time. So I think a lot of people have a huge fear of those cold calls or having difficult conversations over the phone, and it cripples them.
Yeah. And I've never actually ever thought about that in the sense that, you know, you said that I was comfortable on the phone because of my call center experience. I've never put those two pieces together. Like that's why I was so fine. I mean, I wasn't cold calling at Regions, but I was still very comfortable on the phone and talking to folks on the phone.
Yeah, talking to a wide variety.
A lot of people don't even like talking to their family members on the phone. You know, it's just it's awkward
true.
if you haven't done it a lot.
No, I mean, and the thing about it is, like, you know, you've got the thing that Wells Fargo did really well for me is they taught me like a sales formula. So they really emphasized heavily on building rapport up front with the client, with whoever you're about to talk to, and then empathizing with them, putting yourself in their shoes and saying, okay, well, how can I help solve this problem for them? But, you know, first and foremost, I think what they skip over is that building rapport and really building a relationship. Yeah. We've been so desensitized with the internet and social media and everything. So I really do business more of a personal way, in that I talk to people and I go from there. And then so that you've got, you know, immediate trust after that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that trust there is what's going to help get them through the process, because it's a difficult process, especially in real estate. You know, I feel like the closing process, just for how long it is and how difficult, there's always things that happen. You got to have
very unfamiliar with most people too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. With the majority of people. So if you have that trust up front, then that's going to help, you know, it's going to yield dividends on the back end.
I think it's a breath of fresh air to people too, because there's so many self-serving, we were talking earlier, there's so many self-serving loan officers, real estate agents, insurance agents, anybody that's in a sales position. You have the advantage to possibly take advantage of someone.
Exactly.
It's a very vulnerable place for that client. So, you know, I've morphed into less salesy, more just consultation, you know, consulting buyers or consulting folks that may need to refinance. So, and that's a cool shift, because I feel like I'm bringing more value to those folks, and I'm not so much worried about myself, and I get to worry about them.
Yeah, I like that. Good deal. And it's nice in markets like this where, you know, the business is pretty good all around. So, well, that's a good segue then. Are you doing a lot of refis right now?
Not really. I'm really more purchase heavy. So like the refis that I do are folks that have bought a house with me within the last few years, and they're calling me like, hey, Nate, like, can we refi and save some money? At the very beginning of the pandemic, when rates dropped pretty sharply, I started calling clients like, hey, like, this is probably a good idea for you to refi. I don't know how long these rates are going to last. Yeah. Sure enough, they've lasted for 18 months. Yeah. But, I mean, at the time you didn't know that. 2020. Yeah. I mean, you go from 5% to 3.5%, like, this makes sense for you. Yeah. So, you know, I made calls for about a week and a half, and then I got slammed full of business to where I couldn't make calls anymore. So then I've been riding that ever since, and folks, I'm pretty good at keeping up with the folks that I want to keep up with, whether it be social media, email, just call, texting them, doing kind of an annual review of your loan. So that's how I generate a lot of repeat clients too.
Good deal. Okay. So give us a little bit of an overview of the current market then. I mean, a lot of people, everybody knows that things are busy.
Sure.
What does it look like from a lender's perspective? Rates, how do you feel like things are going?
Yeah. Towards the end of 2021 here.
Yeah.
Yep. So rates are the last 3 weeks or so, the rates have ticked up a little. We were talking earlier, and it's all about perspective as well, because like I pulled a rate today and I think it was like 3.5 or something like that. I was like, man, that's not a great rate. But then I sat there and thought, I was like, I'm 34 in my first home. Like it was 5.75.
Yeah.
So like I'm not that old.
Yeah.
And I've done loans in, the low 6s. So it's all about perspective there. Like 3.5 is still really
it feels high,
Yeah.
but it's not.
It's not, because
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen 2 before. You've 2. I don't know how long I had in my pipeline where every number started with 2.
That's
so
insane.
it's crazy, and that went on for months. So you kind of get conditioned to expect that, and then all of a sudden you throw the 3s in there. You're like, hold on, like, okay, wait a minute, the world's not ending.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
still stealing money.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that the thing that I don't think that I don't think we're gonna have any kind of like snap, any kind of like really quick acceleration of rates. I think that it's kind of become taboo from a political standpoint, to where like we don't want this to get out of control. So a lot of the monetary policy and everything, it's they call it quantitative easing, and there's a lot of easing with that.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're actually doing a pretty decent job when it comes to that, because like if the rates went to 5% tomorrow, like that'd be a big problem.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing a pretty good job of. I think we'll probably settle in between that 3.25% and 4%, and we'll probably settle in there for like the next 6 months or so.
Interesting.
Whereas 6 months ago it was like 2.75
Okay.
to 3.5. We're just kind of barely inching up a little bit.
We're easing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, good deal. That's, I mean, people ask us a lot of times, and most of the time I just refer them to a lender. Hey,
Sure.
just call, but it's interesting from a sales perspective, just seeing the amount of time that homes are sitting on the market, that's slowly creeping up just a little bit too. You're kind of noticing, if you overprice a listing, it's not gone and closed within 2 weeks from a cash, it's like, I feel like things are just, they're not slowing down. They're just steadying a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said earlier, it's all relative and it's all about perspective. So like if you wound the clock back 24 months and you dropped this market in there 24 months, you're like, dude, this is crazy right now.
Yeah.
Versus what we just experienced this last spring. We're like, this is kind of slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's
all about perspective.
Yeah. I mean, like we've been in this business long enough to see like the ebbs and flow of it, and it can get wild.
Yeah, it can. So we talked about how you started, and how you kind of built up that initial book of business, and how you've kept your pipeline moving. I checked this. Excuse me. I checked this afternoon. I think 247,000 followers on TikTok. Is that how many you have?
Sounds about right.
Okay, yeah, sounds about like 250,000, something like that. So what made you decide to start doing video content, and how long ago did you start?
So I posted my first video where I had my face on camera. It was a little over 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it's crazy to see how far it's come. It was shot with like an iPhone 6 or 7 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But like,
hey, don't knock the iPhone cameras though.
I mean, I mean, I still do most of my content with my iPhone.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't even on a tripod. Like I literally had like a coffee mug right in front of me, and I had it propped up against the coffee mug. So like it's got the weird like 45-degree angle up towards my chin.
Beautiful. Yeah. Like every Facebook mom selfie.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I turned into like a middle-aged man all of a sudden. But no, so I started doing that 3 years ago, and I had a series that I called Monday Mortgage Misconception Minute or something. It was something with a bunch of alliteration. It had to do with, I'm going to give you mortgage information in less than a minute every Monday.
Good deal.
And the whole thing was like, if my video went over 1 minute, then I was going to throw a taco party. It was like, if it's over a minute, everybody gets free tacos.
Cool.
And so I did that for 3-4 months.
How many times did you have to do free tacos?
I did free tacos once. And then I changed my marketing strategy after that.
Yeah. Only have to pay for tacos one time.
Right. But I started the short videos even from the get-go, because I sat there and I thought, like, how do I consume content?
Yeah.
And my attention span isn't the greatest, and I just assume other people are like that.
Yeah.
So like for someone to watch something that is 8 or 9 minutes long when you're scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Instagram, like, it's got to be really freaking good.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to watch an 8-minute video about mortgages when they're scrolling Facebook. Like, you have to seek that out.
Yeah.
So I was a really big fan of less than a minute videos. So to kind of segue into that, I mean, I had kind of developed a following here locally via Facebook, and it was mostly real estate agents and lenders and folks that are in our market.
Sure.
And then my friends and family that follow me on Facebook. But when I got TikTok, it was kind of like it played to my strengths, where it was short form videos. That was a big deal for me, because like, man, this is like what I've been waiting for, because I wasn't great on YouTube. I wasn't great on the 5-6 minute kind of deal. Like TikTok really played into my strength. So I really just kind of doubled down on what I was good at, and it has turned into something that I never thought it would turn into.
Yeah.
But it's been great. Like the last 18 months with that, I've made pretty good money just from that. It's opened a lot of doors for me. And really,
that was my next question: is how has growing that following impacted your business?
I mean, I made $50,000 or $60,000 last year just from TikTok.
Really?
6 months of TikTok.
I didn't realize that TikTok paid. Do they pay for?
No.
views?
That's just those are leads.
Oh, leads.
Okay.
Like closed business that came in from TikTok.
Wow.
That was my next question. I didn't realize that TikTok had any way to monetize.
I don't think that
your
they do.
following or anything.
They've got a creator fund, so you have to have
Okay.
a certain amount of followers and whatever to join the creator fund. It's pennies on the dollar. I mean,
Okay,
I think I've made like $1,000 in the last
Okay.
18 months. Like, I actually left the creator fund because like someone else can. Like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need the IRS sniffing down my back just because I had like $1,000 1099 from TikTok. You know what I mean?
Really?
So, but no, I mean, and so I've kind of pivoted into, once Reels came out on Instagram, I started posting a bunch of Reels, and truth be told, they were recycled TikToks, but it's a different demographic on Instagram. You know, TikTok at that point, it wasn't as popular as it is now. It was still popular, but it's still kind of growing popularity. I think it's like the #1 downloaded app the last couple months or something like that.
I believe it.
So yeah, I just kind of doubled down on what I was good at, and I went over to Instagram, went over to YouTube, and I started posting shorts.
Yeah.
And so that's just like what I'm good at. So like, if you put me on a YouTube video where, you know, the algorithm says that it's like 7 to 10 minutes is what they really like, I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to keep my own attention for 7 to 10 minutes. Like, I'll sit there and watch a video that may like, this sucks. Like, how do people watch this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what was so hard for me up front when I first started video marketing. I was like, there's no one's going to watch this stuff. So I had to put my own spin on it, put some humor in there. And that's why part of the reason that I put my handle on TikTok and Instagram is mortgages are boring. Like, I just wanted to address the elephant in the room. This content is probably going to be boring, but it's going to be useful, hopefully. So, I went from there, and it's been cool because, I mean, I get to do stuff like this. I have people calling me, wanting to put on social media seminars. Like, I've met a lot of really cool people, in this industry. I got invited to there's some grand opening of some restaurant here locally, and like, hey, you're like a Pensacola influencer. I don't really know about that.
Yeah.
But they're like,
Lean into it, man. Yeah,
exactly,
you are.
absolutely. But they're like, we wanted you to be part of this VIP like soft opening. I'm like, guys, like, I don't know who y'all are. Like, you don't know. Like, no, I don't think so. But I mean, it's cool to have like little opportunities about that, that. So
absolutely.
It put me on the map per se.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I feel like most people don't ever experience something like that, I feel like. But that's something that is such a game changer.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you got to have something that separates you and kind of gets you out of the pack.
It
now
differentiates you know, from
100%.
like we said.
That's right.
It's like a value add, or what just straight up differentiates you. Now, the TikToks, you recycle them on Instagram. Do you do the same thing on shorts for YouTube?
Yeah. Now I've gotten to where I will, especially if they're the spoken words not necessarily like the lip syncs or the lip
Yeah.
dubs or the skits or whatever. If it's just me talking, like, I mean, I'll just make it and post it on all three platforms because
Okay.
it's different demographics. And I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't watch YouTube every day, but there are people that do.
Yeah.
Same thing with Instagram, same thing with TikTok. And I'm still amazed at, I've even kind of messed around with reposting some of my old content. Like I'll take a TikTok and then I'll repost it on TikTok again. And I'm sitting there thinking like, man, like people are going to see that I'm reposting content. But then someone said something crazy that really resonated with me. Like, do you ever watch reruns of your favorite shows? I'm like, that makes perfect
That's true.
sense.
Yeah.
So like, why would people get upset that I'm repurposing this or reposting it? But not only that, but let's say I have, 200 whatever thousand followers. Well,
How many of those are even going to see it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my point with that is like, okay, well, it got 100,000 views the first time. Well, that means that 150,000 people didn't see it the first time. So
Yeah.
let's try to recapture that as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So how do you feel like, well, we had done a couple forever ago. I think that's how we first connected over TikTok, actually, because I had a couple videos, just a Pensacola sunsets that did, I think one did 150,000 and the other one did like 15,000 or something like that. I haven't checked it. I haven't been on it in a long time because it can be so time consuming. Like, oh, let's do another video. And then it's like, okay, we're not actually selling real estate.
Right.
Yeah. But we took those same videos and put them on Instagram Reels, and they had like 5,000 views maybe. So the views were tremendously less on Reels.
Right.
Is it the same for Reels and Shorts both?
It is, but the way that I see that is that, okay, like if I posted back in the day before Reels existed on Instagram, like if I posted a video, I might be lucky to get 500 views.
That's true.
Versus now with Reels, if I don't get 5,000, I'm like, well, that flopped.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you got to think, like, I would have been thrilled with 5,000 views a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's true. It's about perspective still.
Right. And so, I mean, it's crazy and it's hard because like your video that you said you got 150,000 views. So that's kind of like the benchmark now.
Yeah. It
Mentally,
is.
you're like, if this doesn't get 150, then I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
I gotta change something up.
Yeah, the other one that did 15,000, I was like, I thought that'd do a lot better.
Exactly. And it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But and I started thinking about this like, okay, but this is marketing still.
Yeah.
Like, but how many times do commercials just suck? Like
Yeah.
if you're watching a football game, basketball game, like
You're
that
still in
commercial
front of
sucks.
somebody.
Exactly. You're still in front of somebody, but it's not like Bud Light stops advertising because it's like, well, that commercial sucks. Let's just not do commercials anymore.
That's true. You just
They
keep going.
keep trying to find the next hit.
It's a very valid point.
So that's what I tried to start finding. It was like it's such a mental game.
Yeah.
In the sense that like it can really those numbers can really validate you.
Yeah.
And if you really get caught up into it, it's a really dangerous, really slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you just kind of turn your mind off to that and don't focus on the numbers and just keep creating content, then the numbers will add up and they'll kind of takes care of itself.
That makes sense.
That's interesting.
Okay, so you had one more piece of advice.
We were talking off air and we decided to hit record real quick. So go ahead.
So any platform that's out there, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, any kind of social media platform like that, even LinkedIn. I haven't really dabbled in LinkedIn, but what I've found great success in is that once they introduce a new feature, for instance, when Instagram came out with Reels, like their algorithm really starts pushing Reels. Same thing with YouTube. YouTube is trying to compete with Instagram and TikTok with these shorts. So they've really been pushing shorts lately.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest nuggets, so to speak, is anytime a new platform comes out with a new feature, try to use and utilize that feature and work in that feature into your content. And the algorithm is going to like
It's going to push it.
It's going to push
I remember
it
it was the same thing when Instagram came out with stories.
100%.
They
Yeah.
were super pushing stories.
Yep.
I found myself when Reels came out being a little standoffish, and then I caught myself. I'm like, I'm just being an old person. I just don't want to learn something new.
Yeah, well, that's how I felt about TikTok. I was like, I'm not going to get on that app.
Yeah.
Well,
Hated
okay,
it.
don't be that way. You
Right.
know, I think that's a lot of times people, they want to just claim computer illiteracy and
Yeah.
just, I don't understand that. I don't
Right.
do that. Well, everything new that you do, the first time I got on Facebook, I was like, there's so many tabs.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
I didn't download Facebook until like 2 years ago just to
Right.
keep in touch with family because I was actually like, I'm not going to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
When I downloaded it, I was like, how do all these old people
Yeah.
navigate around this thing? But after you've been on it a while,
Yeah.
you get used to it.
Just
And
like
it's just a
anything.
matter of exposure.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Well, and change is the only constant. It's the only thing that you can predict.
That's
like
true.
change is gonna happen. So
Great point.
if you can either reject it or adapt with it.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. I feel like that's very applicable for everyone.
That's another
everyone listening.
good clip. We
Yeah.
try and get anything that is a good like 1 or 2 minute segment
Mhm.
so we can use it for reels and
that's
stuff
right.
too.
Right
So I say we do that. We do it when we have time.
Sure.
Looking at you, Jojo.
That's the other hard part is carving out the time for all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
is a
people,
lot.
That's what people ask me, like, how do you have time to, do
Produce
these
that
loans
much.
and then also produce this much? I'm like, I literally, like, it's a lot of times, a lot of people, they plan it out. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very spur of the moment. I have this idea. I need to do it right now.
Yeah.
And hopefully, and if I have time to do it right then I do it right then. And if not, I write it down in a notebook or put it in my notes app or whatever on my phone, and I go back to it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very, very good.
Because that was one of my questions is how do you continue to create content,
Yeah.
especially that shorter form content? It's just a quick idea.
Sure.
It's not like, we're going to make a video series about, the
Right.
different types of mortgages. So how do you keep content fresh after a long period of time? Just write it down or do it as soon as you remember it?
I write it down, or like if I start to slow down, as far as like if I get my head above water on a day, or like if I have a rainy Saturday or Sunday
Sure.
or something like that, I'll go and I'll film 10, 15
Good.
videos within couple hours. Like, what else am I going to do? It's raining. It's Florida. It rains all the time. So
Yeah.
like, what else am I going to do? So it gets me out of the house, gets me doing that. And then, I batch record that. I bring 5 or 6 shirts or whatever. And then I make those videos, and then I've got my content for the next 2 or 3 weeks, possibly a month.
Good
Awesome.
deal. I love that. That's a good idea. Okay. Yeah. You look like you're about to say something.
No, I was just thinking about that. I'm glad that you asked that question because I hadn't even thought about that because it can tend to be difficult, like you said, when you're you're busy too. Your mind's somewhere else.
Right.
So that answers that question really thoroughly.
Right.
I love it.
Cool.
All right. Well, we have a final 5 that we ask
Okay.
every guest that we have on the show, just about Pensacola locally, some super hyper local questions. So what is your favorite restaurant? Now, I know you're in Milton, aren't you?
No, I'm actually in
You
Corona
are.
Park area.
Okay.
Pensacola,
All right.
Pensacola.
Okay. So we'll stick with that question then.
So I really like the Fish House. Like that was one of the first places that I went and ate. But like the grits of Yaya to me is probably my favorite dish in Pensacola.
Interesting.
I really enjoy that. I mean, you can't go wrong with one of my favorite steaks in town is actually McGuire's steak. They have a really good steak.
McGuire's.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said McGuire's before.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, their burgers are great. It's a cool
They
atmosphere.
have solid food
yeah,
for
I
the
love
price.
McGuire's.
Yeah.
But Fish House, you guys haven't been to Fish House, have you?
No, yeah.
Well,
We'll
we gotta
definitely go now. Yeah.
It's a good place to go for brunch on a Sunday.
The
100%.
Gritsy
Grits of Yaya.
Gritsy Yaya.
Gritsy,
Okay.
yeah.
Yahtzee.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Okay,
right.
cool.
So that's your favorite restaurant. What is the most useful app that you have on your phone?
I mean, I use Realtor.com quite a bit.
Okay.
And then a mortgage calculator. I do that all the time. But I would say probably I'm on Realtor.com a lot, whether it's going to look at a property that someone's wanting to possibly put an offer on, or just wanting to browse and kill some time. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
Or something that I may want to buy.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Interesting.
I
So
probably use
Realtor.com.
that a lot.
Now, what's the mortgage calculator? Is it an app or a website?
I think it's called like Carl's Mortgage Calculator.
Okay.
I think it's Carl with a K too. So
Okay.
you know,
Wow,
yeah.
legend.
We'll keep
Carl
that. Yeah, that's useful. I know I've been, like you said, been guilty of just killing time. Like, how much house could I afford if
how
I
much
put
is
this
this
down or
payment?
whatever? It just
I think everybody's done that.
yeah. So that's good to know.
Sure.
Okay. What is your favorite? We have favorite business book, or you could do favorite book in general potentially.
So I'm not a big reader.
Okay.
But
We didn't talk about your attention span earlier.
yeah. It's not that I can't read. I'm just not a big reader.
I'm glad
I
you
mean,
clarified that.
I am from Kentucky, but we can read in Kentucky. So,
Can your loan officer read? You might want to check.
but I don't agree with everything that this guy says on air every day or in his books. But I read Dave Ramsey's first book,
Okay.
and again, I agree with about 70% of what he says. And the other 30%, I'm like, you could not be more wrong.
That's how we feel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that 70%, I mean, it clicked with me one day. It's all about, money with me and how we can use money instead of money use us. So it clicked one day, like I'm driving down the road and I can easily afford a new vehicle. But I sat there, I was like, I'm literally just using this to get from one place to the other. And so I'm still driving my 2010 truck that I've got 150,000 miles on it with a bent bumper, and it's been paid for. So like and then he's really good at talking about like investing early. So the whole concept of compounding interest is not something that we've been taught really. So I started investing early when I was younger. I mean, even if it was just like $50 a month, and that's paid dividends.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. So that's probably my favorite book.
Okay.
I also read The Big Short just because I'm a little bit of a mortgage nerd,
Okay,
and I'm a little bit of that's kind of like what I've studied the most is the meltdown, the mortgage meltdown. Like I probably
that's good for you in the industry to understand that well.
And I think folks my age that graduated in that and saw whether it be loved ones or their friends or parents or something lose everything that they had, like that's a very traumatic deal. And just wanting to try to see signs of if we're headed that way, trying to be out in front of it, or just learn so that we can learn from our mistakes.
So,
I like that. That's great.
Going back a little bit, so you said 70% you agree with, 30% you don't. What are some things that Dave Ramsey preaches that you might not agree with?
So the thing that Dave Ramsey misses is the concept of opportunity cost. So he misses so bad on mortgages a lot of times. So like a lot of times he'll say you got to put 20% down into a 15-year mortgage or whatever. That may have been really good advice when mortgage rates were 10%. When they are 2 and 3%, your money is better spent elsewhere, compounding somewhere else. So like put as little and again, the problem that I've got with him is he makes some really large blanket financial statements.
And I think a lot of people in positions that have followings do that, which I mean, that's fine. You can't go and talk about every single circumstance, but they oftentimes can get it wrong.
The problem that I have that he does is he makes those big blanket statements, but it's kind of like in a judgy way. Like I just don't like the vibe.
You're not good with your money if you buy a house for less than 20% down.
Exactly. Like I've done several things that he tells you not to do, and it's grown my wealth. So it's like not everybody can take out debt, but it's leverage. Like that. That's exactly. Debt is leverage.
I think that's and he talks a lot about being over leveraged and things. I know he had his own problems, but that doesn't mean that leverage is real estate in general is such a. We could talk about that alone for a long time, but I was just curious, how you feel about that. Okay, so number 4, what is an accomplishment that you are most proud of, whether personal or in business?
So I was actually going to kind of tie this into my favorite book. I was going to cheat and say I don't have a favorite book, but I have a favorite quote that completely changed my business.
Okay.
And I think I heard this like 3 or 4 years ago. It's very simple. I don't know who said it, but I read it or saw it somewhere, and that's your vibe attracts your tribe. And that was huge for me because it's like you can fake it in any kind of business, any kind of sales, but then in turn you're going to attract someone that you don't necessarily want to work with. But if you go out and you be yourself and you put yourself out there, you're going to then attract people that want to work with you. And like how much stress are you saving yourself there versus you're attracting the wrong crowd that you actually don't like get along with or vibe with versus someone who is a little bit like-minded like you, or they respect what you say. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So once you go and you find your tribe, man, like your business can just take off. It's a little scary because we've been kind of conditioned and told like, don't be rough around the edges. And trust me, like I water myself down plenty. But like not so much like a very corporate mindset like I was, or like you go to like a corporate boardroom or something like that. Like it's all stuffy and they're wearing ties and everything. That's just not my vibe. So like that quote really changed my life.
I've never heard that before. That's really, that's just a good bit of wisdom.
Interesting. I like that. And I mean, like you said, the stress of dealing with people who don't like you or don't appreciate you, or you don't even sometimes you just don't get along with somebody. They're a perfectly nice person, but you just don't you don't mesh with them the way they could with somebody else. And so
Right.
you spend so much time trying to communicate with somebody who you don't communicate well with, and your time would be better spent elsewhere.
Well,
So
and no matter what business you're in, you really need to take a step back and a look back and see how much business is really out there. Like there's so,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what industry it is, there's so much business out there that you could go get. So especially when you're first starting out, you squeeze every lead to death. It has to work out. Like if it doesn't work out, like I'm never going to get another lead ever again. Versus now, like I can be more selective in the sense that I can be myself, and like I'm not for everybody, and that's completely fine. Like I want you to do business with me because you're comfortable with me, and then in turn, like I can be comfortable with you. Like that's the best way to do business. I don't want someone to be standoffish. Like that adds stress to my life, and then my other clients and my family, like they suffer. And it puts me in a bad mood, and I don't like that.
I think that mindset sets a lot of high performers apart from, I would say,
it's an
just
abundance
others.
mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
So coming back to, what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Oh, well, that's what it was. Okay,
yes,
sorry.
that was the question.
See, I told you my attention
No,
span's
that's
bad.
good. That's fine.
The accomplishment that I'm proud of is like I've got to build my business the way that I wanted to, and being myself. And because I mean, you go and you look at other people's content, you look at other people's marketing, and it's so stuffy and it's so disingenuous, and it's not them. You can tell, like, bro, like you're not like that. Like you don't talk to people that way.
Yeah.
Because if you do, like people are gonna laugh at you. Like there's no way that you talk to your neighbor, your friend, your family member that way. I mean, you can be professional and still talk to someone like they're another human being versus like like a robot trying to make a sale or something.
Well, that's kind of how we got on the podcast, because it was just nerves, I think. But on the first couple episodes, it was like, so how has COVID-19 affected your business? And then it's to the point where it's like, okay, well, that's not fun. You know, why would we go and sit down and try and build connections with other professionals and things if we're not having a good time? And it's just, because there's
just loosen up a little bit.
It's not really about the growth or all the different benefits. It's about making connections with people and having conversations. And we love that.
Inevitably, what most people, when they start out, and I did the same thing, like you force it for so long, and then you force it for so long that you get tired of it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, man, like I just want to like be me.
Yeah.
And then you start being yourself and marketing the way that you want to market, and stuff starts to work out for the better magically.
You just got to let it go.
Yeah. Just be
go.
yourself. I generally think that's great advice.
Yep. I completely agree. And our question number 5 is, where can people find and connect with you? But we spent most of the time talking about social media.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and link up to your TikTok and your Instagram.
Make sure to put my MySpace in there. I'm bringing that back.
Oh, MySpace. Bringing it back. Okay. He's trying to bring it back. I don't know
market MySpace to TikTok.
Okay, cool. Yeah. How's the following transition
it's
from
not
TikTok
great.
to
It's not great.
Keep at it, man. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. Oh man. All right, Nate. We appreciate you coming on the show, man. There's some guests who bring a lot of valuable knowledge, and there's some guests who are super, super fun to talk to. And I feel like you've been both of those things.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been a really, really fun show, and we hope everybody listening has enjoyed it. So Nate, again, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it.